Hi there, welcome to latest episode of my 10-minute moan, and the topic of this 10-minute moan is yet again more lies from the SNP about what would happen to Scotland through independence. And I believe they're very deceitful with yet another of the suggested 10 papers that they're going to produce to tell us how wonderful life's going to be if Scotland became independent. You might already remember the laugh we had with the paper going on about sport and like music and culture and all that carry on, where one of the main selling features of independence was we'd get our own slot in the Eurovision. So I'll put a wee link up here somewhere on this one. If any of you haven't seen that one, you might want to. But this one, the newspaper, tells us how Scotland is going to become a member of the EU, the United Nations, and NATO. And some of that is just complete bunkum. As a minimum, you could apply to these bodies. The reality is that some of them simply wouldn't want you. There are, the United Nations probably the easiest one to become a member of. However, the other two not so much so, and not a guarantee. And also, the sort of double standards that Scotland's SNP are talking about in these papers, because they tell you that, you know, they're doing this for the will of the Scottish people without even asking the Scottish people. So, a wee bit inconsiderate, but I want to look at the three bodies because they are very unique and they all have different criteria, etc. But the biggest one I find quite laughable is this, that they're just going to become a full member, not just a member, affiliate member, or one of the, I think there's 4 different levels of membership in NATO, but they're going to become full members apparently. Now, NATO is a nuclear alliance. It was set about after World War II and the advent of the Cold War. And because it was a nuclear alliance, the SNP policy right up until 2012 was to not become involved with NATO because they don't like nuclear weapons. Actually, it went to their party conference in 2012 before they voted against this policy and voted to change the policy. Now, the vote ended up, I think it was about 55% of their membership voted to change the policy, and that was led by Alex Salmond. He wanted to change it. And it led to resignations. It led to the young young SNP went up in arms about it because of this nuclear tie that it had. So very peculiar that, you know, that they should be trumpeting this as one of the major benefits and a massive turnaround for the SNP recently, that they want to be part of NATO. Now, NATO members defend each other if attacked. That's basically what it was set up to do. It was a North Atlantic Treaty, where there was a concern about predominantly Russia and the communist bloc, and they wanted to set up a defence system, and that was nuclear based. So the full members, like UK, America, have got nuclear weapons, and members who don't have their own nuclear weapons agree that they can be, use their country for planes with nuclear weapons, or, submarines, that sort of thing. But the SNP paper declares that Scotland's going to get rid of every bit of nuclear in the country and just ship what we've got in Faslane, ship that 200 miles south to get it away from our country. So you can imagine this would put them in a peculiar place should they apply to NATO, and other countries need to agree to it, because basically what they're saying is, we'll take all the benefits of being a NATO country, the defence of our borders from nuclear attack, but we're not having any of that nuclear. Now, I'm not quite sure how that would work with another country who maybe don't have their nuclear weapons but agree with the NATO regulations that will allow nuclear weapons for other countries in. Because let's say you were trying to think if Italy have got, I don't think they've got, but they've agreed that, they could have planes and stuff there. But Scotland's saying, nah, we're not wanting any of that bad stuff. But if we're ever under attack, then we'll take the honours off you. It's like living in a close, and they're close to deciding that they're going to get some guard dogs for their own security. And there's 6 flats in the close, and 5 of them say, aye, that's fine, and we'll take a wee shot at the dog, we'll feed it and home it if need be. But one neighbour going, nah, I'm not having the dog, I'm nothing to do with the dog. But when somebody tries to break in, I want to use that dog. Why would the other 5 neighbours agree to that? And that's what Scotland and the SNP are expecting from NATO. And I just don't see why the other members would let them in on that basis when that's what the SNP are saying. Now, the UN, slightly different concept. There's a lot of common stuff within the UN, a lot of the members are common, etc. But it's more a aim of having international peace and offers, which does offer protection to other, NATO, UN members. Though. Now, the odd thing about this is, currently the United Kingdom have got a permanent seat in the Security Council of the UN. That gives them quite a powerful position because the United Nations could vote to do stuff in the UK, for example, anywhere in the world, to be fair. And Britain, as it stands, has got a massive say in that because of this permanent Security Council seat that they have, along with a couple of other countries that formed the United Nations. And if Scotland was not part of the United Kingdom, it would have no say, no guaranteed say at all in what the United Nations do. So I'm not really sure how much value is in that, because you're not guaranteed a voice then. You've got a voice now, because part of the UK gives you that by default. But to be in the UN without having any say in the Security Council kind of makes it a bit redundant, because you're not guaranteed any say in anything. And the last one that they keep piping up is EU. And that's what I don't know how or why they keep punting this thing, right? I think they've caught into the idea that a lot of Scots voted to remain in the EU. So just see that as a cuddly thing to throw at voters, right? That, well, we'll come back in the EU. That's what we'll do. We're independent Scotland, we'll come back in the EU. Forgetting 2 massive things and just ignoring them. And the 2 massive things are new members of the EU have to do 2 things. Well, they need to do more than 2 things, but there's 2 that are very important that just wouldn't happen. The first of all, have to get into the monetary union, which means you have to have your own currency just now, which you don't have. They have to tick some certain boxes for 2 years on a transfer and over system into the euro. But Scotland don't even know if they want to use the euro or not. Some SNPs have been heard previously saying, no, we'll just keep the sterling. I don't know how that's possible, but there you go. They're going to do that. So they don't have their own currency. Even if they did use the sterling even for a period of time, how can you tie that into this 2 years transfer before you go full euro? And they've not been clear on whether they even want a euro. So if they say no to all that, then your membership application fails. It's very, very simple. Now let's just pretend that we live in the fantasy unicorn world of the cult, and we managed to do all that. We somehow managed to have the smackaroonie or something as our currency, and we were going to adopt the euro, and we went through this 2 year cycle to get the euro, and we could prove that we were going to do that. Still comes to a vote. Now, I didn't realise until very recently that to become an EU member, every EU member has to say yes. One country says no, veto, bang, done, you ain't coming, right? Now let's consider Spain. Spain recently had an illegal referendum in the Catalan area. People went to jail because of it. Because for a very, very long time, the Catalan has had a movement for independence. And Spain obviously have been fighting against that. They also have a similar, but probably not just as visible, issue with Basque Country, Basque region, looking to become independent as well. Now, if the EU just let Scotland come in, the EU membership after breaking away from a country and breaking up a country, then why would Spain just say, yeah, that's fine, and we'll make it dead easy for countries that break away and declare independence? So I can't imagine Spain. Now that's without even looking at other things like, there's There's some call for a Flemish independence, which would take in some countries within the sort of Benelux area, I'd imagine. I imagine they would be too keen on it either, but forgetting all that, but Spain, you would imagine, just would simply say no. And that would be the end of that. So there's two massive reasons why Scotland would not be part of the EU. There we have it. These three things, I think, in order, the easiest one for Scotland to become a member of would probably be the United Nations, and the hardest one, probably equally hard. It's probably fair to say the EU would be the most difficult, because I just don't see it possible. And NATO would need a massive bit of convincing to let somebody take all the benefits of nuclear, but say, no, we're no, don't even bring your submarines here. No, we want out there. So, and then, there's this thing about, I'm just doing it for Scotland. But you've not asked the Scottish people. How do you know what the Scottish people want? You could argue about the EU one, yeah, I get that, but you ain't going to be able to join that anyway. But United Nations and NATO, you're just going to make the decisions for people, are you? That's fantastic. Wouldn't surprise me, because you are a dictatorship. There's no argument there whatsoever. But there's this burning self-righteousness that you have, that you think you talk for all the people of Scotland. I'm not saying people in Scotland don't want to be members of NATO or the United Nations, but in things like having a nuclear deterrent, you better make your decisions, you crack on. But don't ever say you're talking for the Scottish people, because that's downright disingenuous, at least. However, if you enjoyed the video, give us a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already done so, and unless you're an MSP for the SNP, have a great day. Cheery bye now.